Hello, and thanks for joining us for the Farming Today podcast. I'm Kaz Graham, and in this episode, farmers tell us how hot, dry weather means they may need to change the crops they plant and when they plant them. And I've been to a Cumbrian dairy farm to hear why a good supply of water is critical in these record-breaking temperatures.
A cow will drink sort of 100 to 125 litres a day, but once the temperature gets above 25 degrees, you can easily double that.
That's a lot of water. More on keeping cows cool a little later in the programme. First, though, all week we are looking at local food systems, alternatives to big supply chains and supermarkets. Lauriston Agro-Ecology Farm, just north of Edinburgh, covers 100 acres and is run by a workers' cooperative. It describes itself as an urban farm growing food for people and wildlife and claims to be Scotland's largest community-supported agricultural enterprise. It supplies veg boxes for more than 100 co-op members and is home to more than 200 allotments. The co-op says that all the food produced stays within 10 miles of the farm, which has been running for 5 years now. Kathleen Carragher has been to meet Dav Shand from the food production team and some volunteer growers.
We produce for a veg box and market stall and some restaurants. We've gradually built up the infrastructure and our capacity to grow here. Over the last couple of years, that's meant adding tunnels and growing space. We grow primarily for our veg box, and right now we buy in very little for that, which means we grow a wide variety of veg, mostly annual, of what's possible in Scotland.
Who are your main customers? Because this is quite a mixed area, isn't it, in terms of housing and incomes?
Absolutely, yeah. That's one of the opportunities and the challenges at the farm here, is that we have some of the wealthiest neighbourhoods right beside us, as well as some of the most marginalised in Edinburgh. So our main customers are the veg box customers, and they come from across those communities. We have a sliding scale payment model which tries to remove some of the financial barriers to getting access to our veg.
Yeah, you can see the difference. That one's not been attacked very much by the slugs at all, but that one's just been decimated. So.
We run regular volunteer sessions across the farm. It's a key part of how we want people to engage with the farm. It's a great help for us in the garden to have their help.
Some of these need a trowel, you know.
I think maybe this road doesn't have anything in it.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So what do you think of Lauriston Farm?
I think it's very necessary, and I think it's growing a lot more than food, but it is growing a lot of delicious food. I just want to see many more of these kinds of urban farms being developed all over the country. Really, we need them. Let's do it.
Dav, you also run an allotment scheme here.
Council allotment waiting lists are enormous, so we've done something a little bit different where we are inviting people to take on allotment if they are a community group or if they can make a neighbourhood group with some of their neighbours. So we don't give allotments to individual households. Feels like that's a more resilient model, particularly for people who aren't used to growing food. We also do grow your own food courses so that those taking on allotments can get the most out of that space. The allotments do provide a key part of our local food strategy, giving people the opportunity to grow their own food in a secure space with support.
We could trial it and see if it does actually work. I've got no idea. You read all these things.
What impact do you think you're having on the local food economy?
We have a lot of potential here, and we are demonstrating and building a model which we hope is scalable. We have 100 acres here on the farm. We're not growing in nearly all of that yet. So we're trying to build a resilient model that we can scale up. And we hope in the future, building both our own capacity and with our partners in our networks, that we can have a more sustained impact on the local food economy.
Dav Shand from Lauriston Farm near Edinburgh. Now, it has been hot, you may just have noticed, unseasonably hot this last few days across much, though not all, of the UK. Farmers in the east of England say that they're going to have to start reviewing the way they plant crops after one of their driest Aprils on record. Crops already planted are struggling, and this current hot spell is making matters worse. Heather Oldfield is county chairman for the National Farmers Union in South Lincolnshire, and her beans, barley and wheat fields are all suffering because of the weather, as she's been showing our reporter Bob Hockenhull.
So we're in your winter wheat field now, and you're not happy with the condition, are you, of the crop?
Not as it stands at the moment, Bob. So it's looking pretty clean, but the crop just looks stressed, and I think that's the story across the southern county and down the east of England. So last year, between the 1st of March and to present day, we had 44.5 mils of rain. This year, between the same period, we've had 27.9, so that's nearly half of the rainfall. And then you put that in with increased costs of inputs, so fertiliser and diesel, and then you put that together with a reduction in prices for winter wheat. We're probably on for a deficit of about £20 a tonne, is what the weather's going to cost us at the moment. Last year, the drought that we had then cost us about £11 to £12 a tonne, so it's not looking very clever at the moment.
And you've got spring barley in the field next door, and it looks very patchy, doesn't it?
It's really patchy, and that's been drilled for a fair few weeks now as well. It's just moisture. There isn't the moisture there for the seed to germinate. We drilled with a direct drill, which means that it doesn't disturb the soil too much to try and consolidate that moisture. And we really put the seed as far down in the soil as we could to try and hit moisture, but it's not made much of a difference.
How do you see the future then if this weather pattern continues?
We're seriously considering whether we can grow spring crops. You want to drill a crop to know that you're going to get something back and you're going to at least break even. But if looking across the field at the moment, I don't think we will. We have to go more to winter cropping. But then we've got the issue that we've had for the last few years, that when you get to October time, that's when it starts to rain. And that's when, particularly here where we're on heavy clay, it becomes too soft, the ground, to be able to travel with equipment, and then you can't drill. So it just puts a lot more pressure on the team that you have around you, how we work this land, how we crop and how we produce food.
So there'll be more work done in the winter, you think?
Well, potentially in the autumn. But the problem that you have is we use spring cropping to widen our rotations, to improve soil health, for the environment, and we also use those spring crops to break up pests and diseases as well, and spread your risk.
Are you and other farmers going to look at different crops that perhaps you could grow that maybe don't need as much water?
We could, but I don't know what they are at the moment. We will, and I think farmers, we're very innovative, but looking at anything new requires investment, and there isn't that there at the moment. There's not flex in the system to be able to do that, which is why people are looking to diversify into other things.
I guess one of the solutions would be to build more reservoirs. Is there any hope of that happening?
It comes back to having that money to invest in that sort of thing. So I think it's really a push to be able to work with government to be able to put things in place where needed to make planning permissions easier. And I think there's not the confidence in agriculture or in farming longer term, because we come on the back of probably 5 or 6 years where we've had quite erratic weather patterns, and a lot happen politically and a lot happen with markets that have been completely out of our control. So it's a job to know what you do right for your business and where we go next.
That's arable farmer Heather Oldfield. Well, extreme heat means extra concerns for livestock farmers too. The Irish government has issued guidance advising not to transport animals in the hottest part of the day, and farmers and vets will be looking out for symptoms of heat stress in all livestock. Richard Park has a herd of 140 organic dairy cows just to the south of Kendal. He's been actively future-proofing his farm to deal with heat waves for some time now because of the increasing number of extreme weather events we're experiencing. I swapped the heat of the office for the slightly unusual heat of the Cumbrian countryside to go and see how. Just up at the top of the hill here, it looks absolutely idyllic, like classic sort of pastoral English scene.
We've got some Holsteins, we've got some Viking Reds, we've got some Montbelliards, and we've got some Jerseys, a real licorice all sorts.
Yeah, and on a baking hot day like today, we're at the right place for these cows, because this is one of your troughs here?
It is. This is one of our water troughs that we have in every field, every paddock. We can hear the water running in there. And the trough is full, so that's good, that's what we want to see. And then we have a tank near the farm, and that holds enough water for 2 days. And we have a big pipe that goes underground and feeds all these troughs, so that the cows always have water in front of them, because a cow will drink sort of 100 to 125 litres a day, but once the temperature gets above 25 degrees, you can easily double that
double
that, 200 litres plus a day. A cow is an animal whose ideal temperature is probably around about 5 degrees. What is it now? Probably around about 28 degrees. So if we look at them, they are just sort of breathing a little bit heavy.
And checking the water troughs is obviously something that every livestock farmer will be doing.
Checking the water supply is one of those daily checks that you do, or sometimes twice daily.
Yeah, they're panting actually, aren't they?
They are, yeah, they're hot, but they're absolutely fine. I mean, they've got a really nice shine on their coats, so they are looking well. It's just overheating a little bit. Its natural inclination is that it wants to find somewhere out of the direct heat, shade, or sometimes, depending on which paddock they're in, you'll see them all sat on top of the hill, obviously catching a little bit of breeze.
Yeah, and you actively keep these hedges like this so that they can provide shade.
We do. It's something that we started doing a number of years ago, is allowing the hedges to grow a lot taller for this very reason, amongst others. Sometimes they can be in a paddock that doesn't have any hedges. So what we have started to do this year is put in a agroforestry system. So we've got a line of trees, and then at either side we've got a line of shrubs that in a few years will grow up and provide the same benefits.
How does this heat affect the milk?
It can lower the milk production just because the cow is a bit more uncomfortable, probably don't eat as much. But for us, our cows all calve in the autumn, so at this time of year they will stop being milked for a couple of months, so it doesn't really affect us in that sense.
And this grass that we're standing in, this long grass, I mean, it's not just important as feed for now, it's important as winter fodder as well. You cut it at this time of year and then store it for the winter as silage. Lots of farmers out silaging at the moment. I passed a couple just driving here. What kind of impact will this real extreme heat have on this year's silage?
As a dairy farmer, I take 4 to 5 cuts of silage, so we've taken our first cut, and then we'll be taking a subsequent cut every 5 to 6 weeks. Normally in Cumbria, when you're making silage, you're watching the weather forecast for rain. And obviously that's not a problem at the moment, but you would probably not spread it out to dry. It is actually possible to get it too dry, and to make silage, you're not making hay, so you don't want it too dry. You're sort of getting that balance.
Well, that's interesting, because one of our listeners actually emailed us and said, can grass ever be too dry to make silage?
It probably can. The problem if it's too dry is because to make silage you need to compact it down and get all the air out, and if it's too dry it's really difficult to do that.
And if you cut a grass for silage and it's really, really hot, how does that impact the further growth afterwards? I've passed quite a few fields that look really yellow after they've been silaged.
They do look yellow just at the moment, don't they? Yeah, but there is actually quite a bit of moisture in the ground, and there's actually rain forecast next week. So this is something you won't hear very often, but as a farmer I'm very happy with the weather.
Hello, we've got a 716 who is a beautiful chestnut colour. She's just come to say hello.
With those beautiful eyes and eyelashes, I'm guessing she'll have a little bit of Jersey in her.
You have an organic system here, and your cows are out in the field in the day, but of course a lot of herds will nowadays be inside all year. What sorts of measures do those farmers take to ensure the welfare of their cattle?
So they will have really prioritised ventilation in their sheds, so whether that's having open sides, fans to keep the air moving, there's plenty of space, having what they call misters, so they'll spray water on the cows for a length of time and then they'll put the fans on, and that evaporation effect will naturally cool the cows.
And you have sheep here as well, don't you? How do the sheep cope? Because they've got these still big fleeces at this time of year, a lot of them, haven't they?
They have, but it's coming up to what we call clipping time a little bit early. I mean, it is a bit of an extreme that having 29 degrees in third week in May.
They'll be sweltering.
They will, but they're in a field and they've got plenty of trees to sit under.
They sort themselves out, don't they?
Yes, yeah.
That's Richard Park at Low Sizer Farm. And that's all from us for today. I'm Kaz Graham. The producer is Rebecca Rooney, and Farming Today is a BBC Audio Bristol production.